Hey everybody, Jeffrey Powers here with Geekazine, and we've got another Wirecast tutorial. This time, we're on Wirecast. We just upgraded to Wirecast 6, so we've got a Wirecast 6 tutorial, adding a Twitter feed, and initial thoughts of Wirecast 6. Hey everybody, Jeffrey Powers here from Geekazine, Think Magazine, putting a geek over at geekazine.com. You can Twitter me over at Geekazine. And Wirecast, if you don't know what Wirecast is, it's made by a company called Telestream. It's software for the Mac, for the PC, allows you to create a layered structure, video, and a switchable structure. So I can go from camera 1 to camera 2 or camera 1 to desktop mode. Like, for instance, I could go from this shot over to this shot, and I can have overlays. As you can see, I've got a lower third right here, and I've got my little bug right here, and I can add things like this little bug right here for the tutorial, or a picture-in-picture shot like this, and so forth. So, and of course, this has been around for a while. Wirecast 6 is now out, and they've added a couple features. One of those features is adding Twitter feeds, which is great, Twitter integration. And I'm going to show you how to use it and actually use it in a different ways, so it works for what you need it to work for. Now, of course, I'm using this on my MacBook Pro. I haven't really tested it on my desktop yet, Wirecast 6. So most of my thoughts are going to be through the MacBook Pro, but I have a feeling that any good and bad is going to switch over to the desktop. I got to back up and then go from there. So, but first of all, I want to show you this new feature. It's called Twitter. Well, Twitter's not the new feature, of course, but adding a Twitter feed to your picture and stuff like that is a new one. So let's get down to it. I'm going to go over here to my basic feed here, and I'm going to pull up. There I am. So, and so as you can see, Wirecast 6 has not much departure from Wirecast 5. If you're upgrading from Wirecast 3 or 4, yeah, it's definitely got a bigger departure in the how the layers are done. And of course, if you want to check that out, we've got Wirecast 5 tutorials that will explain exactly what you need to see for that. But here, as you can see up on top, we've got a new set of you got Wirecast, you got file edit, switch, media sources, output, layout, replay, which is one of the new features, but that's for pro users only. Social, which is one of the new features, which is what we're going to talk about, window and help. So to do Twitter, to actually create Twitter, we want to go into social and go from there. So there's two different ways to do this. You can set this up straight from this social option, or you can go down into your layers and create a new layer and go from there. You still have to set up your social first. So this is how you do it. Go up to social and you go to settings. Drop down comes from here. This is where you put in your Twitter username and password. You definitely need one of those. It has to authenticate you. And then there's a feed type and, of course, an extra field here, depending on what feed type you want. I have it set up for search. You can have your home timeline. You can have your user timeline. You can have favorites and, of course, search on here. I chose search because I want to search for anything that said Wirecast. So I use the hashtag Wirecast. You don't need to use the hashtag. If they don't have hashtag on there, then anything that says Wirecast in it will show up on the feed. In fact, let's do that. Let's just take out the hashtag and say OK from here. So now I've set up my feed for Twitter use. Now, there's two ways to do this. Like I said, the first way is to go up to social and you can say create shot. And I'm going to go back here to show you how that works. Watch right about here as it creates the shot. So we'll go social, we'll go create shot, and I actually pulled it up here. So the default social is up here. So and so that could be a layer, and that's really nice. Otherwise, you can just go in, and I believe it's over here. You say create new shot, and then we'll just remove it from here. So you could create new shot. So we'll add from here. We'll go over to the text area, and as you can see, default social media shot right there. So we've done it both ways. Now, if we look over here in the text, as you can see, there's something new here. It says social name, $social underscore name, $social underscore message. So it's the name and the message. Of course, it will not show up any pictures. So if there's a Twitter post with a photo in it, it won't show it up. Maybe there's I haven't checked to see if there's anything other than social name and social message that you can use in these lines, but these are text lines anyway, so even if it was an image, I don't think it would show up anyway. So, but the cool thing about this is if you can remember social underscore name, social underscore message, you can actually use any of these to create your Twitter timeline. So, but we're going to start with the default. I'll show you that first of all. So we're going to close this out, and now the Twitter's on the default here. We're going to move it down one. So I'm going to move it down here and put everything back up. So now we've got the Twitter here. And so now we got Twitter here. Sorry about that. I had an email pass through. So as you can see, it's completely blank. There's nothing going on here right now. And what we want to do is we want to actually put some Twitter information here. How do you do that? Well, you go back up to social. You have the first one says message feed, and you press on that, and this pops up. Let's do this. Let's zoom this in a little bit. And we'll go back up to social and message feed. And here we go. We've got the social media right here. And as you can see, here's a whole bunch of tweets right here that we can pull from. So I can say, okay, I want this to be live. And if I hit this live, as you can see on the Twitter, it became live. I can't see it because I'm covering the window. But as you can see, I can then switch it to, I don't know, we can switch it to this one. And then, of course, that becomes live. Now, you're saying, well, that's kind of annoying because I just want to rotate through stuff. Well, that's where you can do that through the bottom options here. Let's move this up a little bit so you can see. There's a box here that you can check that says rotate every so many seconds. And as you can see, that changed up everything to include check boxes. So now I can go through here and I can check this box. I can check this box and check this one. And I had one here, but I changed it. Here we go. Here's mine. So I'll check that. And I'm going to say auto refresh every 90 seconds. And then I'm going to rotate selected every 5 seconds. I've got some extra options here to select all or unselect all. So we'll just switch this up to, let's say, 10 seconds for auto refresh. That'll auto refresh. And then we have load older posts option here. And then, of course, load newer posts right here. So we're going to close this up. And as you can see, we've got a rotation of Twitter feed right here. And it's covering up my lower third. But as you can see, now I have a Twitter feed going on through my video, and which is great because I can come back. It's hard to read this. Let's zoom this in a little bit for me. And I said, Pete Campbell says Wirecast. I found it. I need to go to 6 Pro first, and then Streaming Media says Telestream debuts Wirecast 6.0. So you can follow them at Streaming Media. And every 10 seconds, it'll go to the next tweet. There's my tweet. Downloaded Telestream Wirecast 6. Testing out now. And then, of course, my personal hashtag, Geek Out. And go from there. So, you like it. It's really nice, but some of you might go, well, I really don't want that Twitter symbol. I want to create my own thing here. Well, you can definitely do that. You can create your own image. In fact, you can use any of the images here. We're going to turn this puppy off and go back to me. Hello. I'll move over here. Because to do this, we just double click on here. And I don't know why it switched me back over. Oh, that might be a small little extra issue I just found here. So I'm going to go over here. And we'll go this way. We'll do edit shot so it doesn't bring it up into the main timeline there. So. All right, so now I've got that, and so I want to take this. I don't want this Twitter bird here or anything like that. I want it to be something, well, let's say, I want this royal card instead. And as you can see, it's not formatted perfect because, of course, this was never really meant for the Twitter feed. But as you can see, it can use the same thing. In fact, we go over to the text, we'll still see social name, we'll still see social message right here. Let's go back here. This is what I did. And I did this for my lower third. I'm going down to, where to go? There's one called Just Color. I might have went down too far. But anyway, with just color, you can choose. There it is, just color. You can choose this one. Now, this, of course, as you can see, it still needs a little bit of formatting. But the best part about this is when we go over to the text, we can choose to make the background completely opaque, or we can choose whatever color we have. So I can actually create a logo and a lower third, and then use just color to bring in the text right here. So let's do this. Let's format this a little bit. So we're going to go in, and we're going to format the lower part here. And we're going to go maybe 18, 14. There we go. 14 font. And the top font looks pretty good, so we're going to leave it at that. I am going to change the color here because I'm not going to have a background. I'm not going to put in any, maybe I'll put it slight, just like that. Maybe that's what, 10 or something like that. I should close my email. But anyway, we'll do that, and we will do that for this one. And let me just quit this really quick so you don't get another email through there. So I'll choose that as yellow as well. And there we go. So now, when I choose this lower third for the tweet, you will see that. And as you can see, it's kind of mixing in with the other stuff. So I might even just bring up this opacity just a little bit more on the just color so you can see what's going on, but it still looks pretty opaque. From here, we'll click on that to darken it up. So now, when I go from here, and what I'll do is I'll create a brand new shot here. And we'll go from, oops, wrong one. We'll do this. We'll do add intensity extreme shot. And we'll add the audio right here. And of course, I got to remove the audio for the intensity extreme. So now I'm going to take out that. You can still hear me. There we go. And of course, you've got the Twitter handle right there. That's pretty cool. It brings up a lot, so you can actually be looking and say, hey, streaming media, thank you very much for being on the show. And glad to have you here. And Geekazine, thank you very much for your comments on the show, and go from there. I wish there was some sort of ticker, but this works pretty well. If you need something with more functionality, you're going to still have to go the old way to do that. But with this new way, now you can add in a overlay shot or layered shot for that matter. So I could actually bring in through my Intensity Pro, excuse me, and I got to do this way, excuse me. So I'll do that, and then I'll do the edit, and then I can just add the layer in here. I can go like this. I can say default social media and close that up. And now when I come here, well, default social media. Oh, yeah, I got that in there. And I suppose I should put it in above the video. There we go. Now you'll see it. And of course, we can turn that off from there. And I've got my Twitter from there. Working around a little bit of playing, but you know, it still works. It still looks pretty good. And you can get some Twitters in there and respond to some people, maybe live tweeting as they're watching your live stream or whatnot. So, but then of course you can switch back. You can add layer upon layer upon layer. So like for instance, I can go back here. Let's do this. Let's go back to the screen here, and I'll go edit the shot. And I can take this Twitter handle and whoops, bring it up here and maybe resize it a little bit. And I'm using the command key to resize. And of course, you can do this all on Windows as well. So you can bring the Twitter up in the corner here, and then I can create another shot with a regular lower third, and I can say at Geekazine Jeffrey Powers. And then I can create another one if I wanted to, and I can bring in let's bring in this box. Let's resize this box. Let's bring it down and move it over, and you can say in here we can say on the second line subscribe And of course, we've got to change the font size a little bit to something that can be seen. There we go. Now, with all that done, we go over here. And now, as you see, I have a subscribe button. I have the Twitter handling up here. I have my lower third down here. And then I have my bug, which I have on another layer. So I've got my screen pretty much set up with everything that I needed to do and go from there. So you can have a lot of fun with it. Lots of different types of pop-ups. I like the layered pop-up method a lot better than this single layer, but there's a lot of good use to have it all in one. So you click on one button and have it all show up, as opposed to click here and then click here and do them as separate layers that way. So, but anyway, so that's how Twitter gets integrated, and we'll show you really quick. Just a quick here. You got to go up to social. You got to check, do your settings. You have to have a Twitter account to do this. So you put in your Twitter username and password, and then you choose the feed type and go from there. Then you go back up to social. You've got to choose which tweets are going to show up. Now, this can get a little bit frustrating if you're a one-person shop, because if you have the screen open for Wirecast, you want to have this set off to the side. And the other problem is if you have that up here, you can't get into your settings. So if you wanted to change the hashtag from Wirecast to something else, you can't do that from here. And I think this is just a search. So if we change that to GoGo, yeah, it's going to look in all the Wirecast posts to find that. So if we type in Mac, as we can see, two posts here that have Wirecast and Mac in it. So, and of course we can choose to delete all. This rotate every 10-second thing, this will uncheck itself. So when you close it out, close out Wirecast, come back in, you've got to go in here, and every time I've had to recheck this box. So, but then you choose which ones that you want to talk about. Let's bring in another one, and then go from there. A lot of those Twitter programs, those third-party Twitter programs, pretty much are the same thing. That's so if somebody says something bad or whatnot, it doesn't get into the feed up here, and then you're not looking back at your video and going, "Oh my goodness, that person said what?" You've got to choose all the tweets that are going from there. Some things that I'd really like to see with the Twitter feed, and let's segue into the second part. The what's good and bad out of Wirecast 6. The one thing I'd love to see from this is not as much of a ticker, but the ability to actually put this on another computer. Kind of like with the desktop presenter. I can actually do the tweet presenter or something like that. So somebody else can control, another computer can control the tweets, and then and it just pushes over to this computer and displays from there. It seems to be an easy thing that could be done, and I'd like to see it really happen for that aspect. So anyway, let's close all this. Boom, gone. Now we're back to the main screen here. Wirecast as a whole. First of all, if you had Wirecast 5 and you moved up to Yosemite, you had some problems with Yosemite and the click issue. So basically, you'd have to click, and then you'd have to click on the thing again for it to actually show up. That's all taken care of. As you saw, as we went through, there was a small little problem, and I'm going to put it into the forums here, that if you double-click on a scene, instead of it bringing up the window with Wirecast 4 and Wirecast 5, if you double-clicked on the screen, it would just bring up the edit window without switching it over. In this case, it switches it over, then brings up the edit screen. So that's something to think about here. The other thing is the desktop presenter. It's still on 205, and there is now a latency. And I'm going to show you this right now. So I'm here over at my website, Geekazine.com, and I'm going to move the screen up, and I'm going to do that, and it's like a 1 second latency. I'll move it all up, 1/1000, and as you can see, it took a while to move up. So I'm going to move it down right now, and it moved it down like a second later. You will see that latency as you go from there. It's from Wirecast 5. Wirecast 5, it was almost synced up. just a very slight lag behind. And I am using Wirecast, the desktop presenter. I always use landlines to go from one to the other. I always turn off the wireless so there's no confusion on that. Another problem, and this has always been a problem with Wirecast, and I don't understand why it can't get fixed, and that is the audio latency. I use a couple other video programs which do audio and video, do layering and stuff like that. And I plug in the headphones so I can hear myself talk. And there's always going to be some sort of latency. But with these other programs, it's so minimal that there's not a problem. But when I use Wirecast, if I plug in my headphones and I'm using Wirecast, the latency is so bad. All of a sudden, it feels like I'm talking slower because I'm hearing myself, and especially if I'm doing something like singing or something like that. I can't. It's hard to keep a beat. If I snapped my fingers, it would be like snap, 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 like that, and that gets really tough to use headphones for something like that. You actually have to weave in through a third party and kind of not use Wirecast to use the headphones. And I really wish that they work on the latency there. Some other thoughts on this. One of the coolest ideas is the fact that this is 64-bit technology now. So I'm using a 64-bit Yosemite, and now I can run 64-bit Wirecast, which is going to make the process low. Now, if we go over here, you're going to see my process. No, it doesn't show on the upper hand, but the process, it was in red. 62 with video and layers, 85% CPU process. And I wasn't really looking at the frames per second. If I go over here, I'll look over here, it's now dipping down the frames per second, but it's staying around 23 to 30 frames per second, which I remember when Wirecast 4 would dip it down to 7 frames per second. And I just looked like Mr. Roboto here. CPU time, this is an early 2011 MacBook Pro, and it's got 16 gigabytes of RAM in it, and it's got an SSD in it. It's CPUing at about 80 to 90%, which is not great, but not bad. And I did this, and and this is the best part, I'm doing a full 1080p at 4 megabytes per second. And that's pretty good. I've tested this like 3 or 4 times. Didn't see any skipping or anything like that. So we'll check this again as I finish through here. But here's the other thing, and I'm going to go over to the activity monitor. Wirecast is right here. Let's see. Let me do the zoom in on this. I'm going to go back to the activity monitor. Where are you? Activity monitor, and you'll see Wirecast CPU. Now, you're looking at CPU. It says 266.4. That's actually really a lot better than what Wirecast 5 did on this. You would see 500 to 600% CPU on Wirecast 5. So it's using the 64-bit architecture to keep the CPU down. And of course, the better the machine, the better the CPU handling on this. But I'm impressed on how the CPU handling is happening so far. Other than that, it works a lot like Wirecast 5. You'll see a lot of cool stuff. There are some pro stuff that, it'd be nice to see it down in the regular hand, but you gotta think to yourself, do I need the scoreboard? Do I need the replay options? These are just fun little things to do, but in all reality, I just need something that's going to do 2 camera shoots, maybe a third camera every now and then, and audio from different sources, and overlays. And that's what I need Wirecast for. I don't need the scoreboard option. I could use I could use something like the audio inspector in the regular Wirecast, but it's not a big deal, and not big deal for me and what I do. So, anywho, that's it. I think that rounds it out here. It showed you a little bit on the Twitter, and of course, I show you the Wirecast. It looks very similar to Wirecast 5, Wirecast 6, and I like the functionality. I've done a few video tests, and they've come out perfect. Like I said, I'm recording in 1080p. As opposed to 720, which that's where Wirecast 5 would always do. If I tried to bump it up to 1080p, I'd have some weird skipping, kind of like I was max headroom or something like that. So I'm really impressed with this. I haven't tried the streaming yet, and of course I haven't tried it on PC, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to be doing the same thing on the PC and go from there. So that's it. That's this section here. I hope you got some information on it. Wirecast 6 tutorial, adding a Twitter feed, and initial thoughts. If you have any questions, feel free to tweet me over at Geekazine, Think Magazine, Put in a Geek, or geekazine@gmail.com. And of course, on YouTube, please like this video. Please share this video with others that are in the Wirestream community, and let them know that I'll be doing a few more of these to show you the functionality of Wirecast 6 and go from there. Thanks a lot for watching. You guys geek out, and see you next time on Wirecast Tutorials. Jeffrey Powers here. Take care.